Okay, so now we get into what are the options to organize our course. And as I showed you before, default is that the topics are stacked on top of each other. You can pull them out here so that they're each a heading over the top. The way you choose that is you go up here to your course management and your edit course settings. Now in here you've also got some other things. So if you want to change the name of the course, here's how you change the name of the course. You can give it a start and an end date if you'd like. You don't have to. Course descriptions. This is something that you would find in like a course catalog or something. In terms of doing what's necessary, all these things aren't necessary to get a course up and going. You can throw an image on your course. If you do, it becomes the header at the top of your course. But we'll probably more than likely want to stick with a specific appearance. So let's look at course format. Here we've got quite a few options. You really, in terms of the big ones, I think one topic is probably the most common. Topics format was when they were all stacked on top of each other. Collapse topics, this is where all the topics are stacked on top of each other, but they're all closed, so you have to click a button to open them up. If you're familiar with Canvas, it's similar to how Canvas defaults, but there's a lot more options in here than you get with some of the others. So you can use a menu topic. This is kind of a branching scenario. Grid, so if we go grid here, I'll show you what that looks like quick. We won't, there's a bunch of settings here that we can change, but this is what grid looks like. So if you want to throw a picture in each of these, you can have your grid be a picture. If you want a math section, then you can just have an image of, let's say 1 + 1 = 2 or whatever. But so that's an alternative way to set it up. Personally, I think grid's a good option. I think one topic's a good option. I think menu topic, topics or collapse topics. It's really your preference. This isn't, you get to choose this. It's not like we have a default that we have to go with. I haven't used all these columns, just multiple columns in the same course. Your big one, social, this is the only one that I wouldn't be switching my topics when I have a bunch of stuff in a course. I wouldn't use this one if I already had stuff in a course. So that's what I would be careful on. But really the other ones, try them. If they don't work for you, you don't like them, use a different one. But kind of the big ones look like this. If you have a specific desire, like, oh, I wish my homepage looked like this, let us know and we can troubleshoot with you. We can provide, specific help on that. But the big ones, I would probably say grid. Grid allows you can set, the size of those images and how many images you're going to put in each row and column and things of the like. My big one, I was a high school teacher, so my big one is one topic, but I think grid is probably more common for, it just provides a different look. Instead of having a word up there, it's got an image that people can click on. Your appearance. So this is where you can tell it to look like something specific. It's going to default to the Fordson on the page, which is this blue theme. If we make one for your district, then you'll use your districts, and it will show up as a, if we go to Polks quick. So this is what Southeast Polks looks like. And then they have their topics right here, and their breadcrumbs are transparent, so they don't show up unless you mouse over them. So there's different options there, but like I said, we can set those up as we move on. In terms of being necessary, you just have to pick the format you like. The appearance, Fordson's going to work. If we get some time and we can make one for your district, then you can have some of your own branding on there. These other things are just course settings. So if you want to change the size of an upload, it defaults to the biggest, so I just leave it at that. Do you want to do some completion tracking? This is a more advanced part of Moodle, activity completions. So we're going to do them, but it's not because you have to. I would set those on later. By default, you don't need them by any means. Groupings. Do you want to put your students in groups? And you can do this manually, or I'll show you later how to set it up so they do it for you. It automates it for you. I always used groups, and I used groups for my periods. So I would have a class, Earth Science, and then I would set this to use separate groups. and I would force group mode. So every student had to be in a group. And my groups were period 1, period 2, period 5, period 6, whatever that is. But that allows you to organize your groups later on. Again, in terms of being necessary, you don't have to do it that way, but that's a way to organize your students and be able to quickly look at data or look at a class to see how things are happening. These other things, role naming, I wouldn't touch that. And tags, if you want to put tags in your course, again, I wouldn't touch that at the beginning. So we'll just go ahead and hit save. We went back to one topic across the top and went back to our Fordson theme. Now, when I want to add things, I'll just go to the topic that I want to add, and I'll be able to put resources right in there. And once I'm here, I actually have the option of, do I want my first tab to be like my home screen, or do I always want my home screen on top? And I'll show you here. Let's go back into course settings. That's right here. So what do you want tab 0 to be? If you want it to be before the tabs, that means it's always going to be there. And again, the nice part about this, it's whatever you want, and you can always change it afterwards. So you'll notice here, do you want to have a welcome screen that's always there, and then the topics are below it? Or do you want to have the welcome screen as where they default, and then they can go to other things? Personal preference, I'm the opposite of this. I keep mine... wrong one. I keep section 0 as a tab. Now we're going to start building a course. So the first thing I'm going to do is in my general tab, I'm going to change the name, and I'm going to make it a custom name, and I'm going to say, this is my course homepage. Changes the name there. Now you'll notice we have an option. So in topic 1, if I want to change this to, let's say, unit 1, we have this option here to set this as a different level. And I'm not going to do it right now, but I will show you what an example would be. So let's say that is unit 1. If I also want a tab underneath unit 1, so let's say I want a unit 1.1. I'm going to set this as a child of previous and hit Save Changes. And now what happens, I've got a home page, I've got a Unit 1 tab, and I also have a Unit 1 tab down here. Now there's always an index. So what you can do is you can go into your, let's see here. You may want to go in here and call this Unit 1.1. And then you probably want to make this one Unit 1.2. But you can see how those tabs aren't visible unless I'm inside the Unit 1 tab. And then each of those are a different page. Now the nice thing is you're working through content. If you're working on classes on 1.2, you can highlight this. And now what's going to happen is when a student comes to your course, it's going to default to this location where the class is actually working. If you would rather, one more thing on this, to move these around, you use this button down here, and I can move my 1.2. I can move it to a different location. So it'll move it, let's say I want it in here, it'll move it there. If you're on a weekly schedule, which many might be at this point, you can have a course setting that is weekly. And when you do weekly, let's see. Collapsed. You'll want to give it a start date, and you'll want the start date to be whatever the first day is, and then it'll automatically create the names of the sections. So because I had overridden them, it didn't make those. But you'll notice it's already, because of my April 5th start date, it's got the 12th as a start date by default. So this would be the 5th, the 12th, the 19th, the 26th. You can kind of see how that goes. Personally, if I was going to do it this way, I would probably still use the one topic. Or even the grid. So either one you choose there, but if you choose the one topic, then you can make, so right here, you could just make this heading April 5th. Or week of April 5th, or week 1, you get to choose what that's like. So that's how you set up different courses, different structures. I do want to spend a little bit of time going over grid here for people that want to use grid. So this changes the size of the image, the grid on your page. So let's say we don't want this. That's wrong. So if I just put 6 Fs, that's going to be white. And here, you can set your okay. Okay, so now what's going to happen, see how I made them bigger. So now when I go in here, it just pops me down to the screen below it. This red box students aren't going to see. They're just going to see these top ones. So let's do this. And now what we're going to do is your home page is going to have, all the student's going to see is the images that you put on the screen. Now, I would say these are probably a little bit big. So if I go back into grid, I can make those images a little bit smaller. I don't know how small you want to make them, but let's say 256, for instance. Okay. So now when a student comes here, they're going to see 6 image boxes, and I can change the image out. So, let's say I want to grab an image. If I use something, if you're not familiar, Pexels is a free stock site. So let's say I want to type in math. Okay, so I want to use this image. So I can download it for free. Now, over here, I'm going to choose a file, and I can actually probably just grab it from here and drop it in. So you got to drag and drop where you got the file selector here. We'll go over the file selector in a minute. All right, so now this is the image that they're going to see, and right here, so let's say, instead of saying homepage, I could say what have I done? Math. And now that block has the math picture. You can see you can move it out of the grid, so you can have a grid but also have some stuff up top, or you can move it back in the grid, and now it's going to be one of your options. And maybe we went over here, we want to use something that is another site that you can use for stock sites is Pixabay. So let's say I want to do something with travel. Okay, so I want to use this one. Probably need a real nice version of it. Okay, so we got it downloaded. So now over here, just drag and drop, hit save. And now I've got an image in there. I probably want to change the title of this one from April 5th. So let's call this travel. So that's how you can set it up where there's images up top. They click on the image and it'll take them to a set of resources that you have within that folder, essentially. That should give you a good way to get started either with name tabs across the top or image tabs like we have here.